Hey guys, welcome to the Process Podcast. Today we have co-host Jeffrey Wilkins, MBA Sterile Concepts Technology. Welcome. And we also have Alessandra Nicholson from the Candray Institute.
Thank
Thank you guys for coming along. How you doing? How you guys doing today?
Pretty good on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Fantastic, man. Doing good.
Today, the topic is IFUs. We're talking about IFUs, the goos, the bads, the do's, the don'ts, and we even have a sample here of some IFUs, what CMS says, what the Joint Commission says, what Amy says about IFUs. So stay tuned, guys. We will delve into IFUs shortly. So we will be right back.
I can.
Welcome back, guys. IFUs topic for tonight. Let's go, Alessandra. What's your take? Talk to me.
All right. So I'm excited for the conversation, especially because of all the questions that we've been seeing in the group. Different folks have been asking questions about how to navigate IFUs. We had a lovely, strong conversation going in the comments section. So I'm excited to go over the do's and don'ts, what to look for, and what to do if you can't find what you need.
Excellent.
All right. So pretty much general basics for SPD. When you guys are going to look at your IFUs, you want to make sure that you catch all of the critical buckets. So you make sure that you can see what your cleaning methods are, what your assembly methods are, sterilization, and sterile storage. It's really important to make sure you capture all four components because, as you guys know, if we clean the sterilizer tray but we don't put it in the sterile storage properly, then we've just wasted all this effort. So make sure you can capture all of those. And then if for whatever reason, let's say you look at your IFU and it doesn't have a dry time, or you look at your IFU and it doesn't tell you how long it needs to go in the washer, you have a couple of options. You can reach out to your rep. Or obviously on the floor, you can reach out to your management team, your supervisors, lead techs, managers. If you can't find it in house, you can reach out to one of your reps and ask for a copy. If for whatever reason your rep can't get it, you can also call the company. I love to call the companies directly to talk with clinical directors because you can ask questions of them that you wouldn't normally be able to ask of the reps. So that's just another clue. And usually I just find those numbers by doing a quick Google search for their customer service department.
Yeah, that is true.
Ex-
Yeah, that is true because you have a lot of challenges with IFUs because you have, some of the instances where you get IFUs, they're very ambiguous or they don't give you enough detailed information. So you need to have that secondary resource in order to find out that information. Some of the challenges I've seen so far was that, like I said, the IFU being ambiguous. Then the other part of it is that, the ISU being incomplete. They don't give you
Yes.
information like you were talking about the dry time, etc. So we have to have that. I mean, one source has done a fairly good job in trying to collaborate all the IFUs together so you can have one spot to get them. But it's always been challenging to me because I always have to look at the dates of the IFU, see when the last time it's been updated and stuff like that. Because you get an older, outdated IFU, and now you got everybody processing things wrong. It's caused a lot more confusion in the department.
Absolutely. Check those dates, especially if you guys get position papers. So sometimes with IFUs, like let's say your IFU came out in 2012, a company may not go back through the process of testing to redo that IFU, but they may come out with a letter to say that here's some things that we're adding in addition to that. So even for those, make sure you check the dates. If I would say if you're seeing anything beyond the current year, I would just go ahead and ask preemptively if this is the most current version.
Yeah, because I mean, we think about it, just same ways like, in a lot of industries, instruments are being processed at different levels. They get newer, more innovative instruments, for more
Mhm.
invasive surgery. So things may change, even though they may look the same. They may have things that come apart a little differently. So the IFU may
Yes.
change in order to make sure we process it correctly.
Yeah.
So it's very important to continue to look at it. One thing I came across was I thought was very interesting. It was in terms of the validation of IFUs. How are they being validated? Who is validating
Hmm.
them? Are they validating them themselves, and how they're doing that process? To say that they got somebody independent to validate that. I participated in one little process regarding one of the companies that's out there, and we was actually working with them in terms of validating certain things regarding the IFU. And I thought that was interesting
And
that they had reached out to a hospital and gave them an opportunity to look at that. So that was pretty cool.
that's very necessary. I wish more companies would do that before they push products to market. I had an interesting conversation with some Da Vinci educators over their new Ion probe. Have y'all seen this thing?
I have not seen it yet.
Oh well, SPD Nation, look that up. Da Vinci has a new probe that's similar to a scope, is my understanding, but it's like 1.3 millimeters in diameter and it's insulated interiorly and exterior. So you actually have to do a conductivity test where you like dip the thing in the water. You're like a mad scientist, basically. And I asked them, "Did you test this in a deep cam? Because I'm not seeing the vision here." And she was pretty forthcoming in saying that no, she actually had brought the clinical researcher onto the sites after the thing had been cleared to show them what they need to work on in the future, which is great. But also, you already have it on the field. So for the SPD techs out there, do feel comfortable to stand on your certs and your knowledge and ask questions of these folks because they have their level of expertise and what they're focused on, and we have our expertise and what we're focused on.
Hmm.
Yeah, have to be that
Very.
collaboration and a lot of communication regarding it because, I mean, you think about it. We can be doing our process completely good, the way it's supposed to be done as per our knowledge. But if we
Right.
don't have that additional information, it's going to allow us to see that there's changes or there's ambiguous. I can't even say the word. Ambiguous information there, and for us to be able to do that research, we have to make sure that we got the most up to date, the most reliable, validated information to prove our point. Because unfortunately, if we don't, then those opportunities for infections to occur, and a lot of times infections are hard to trace. You know, but a
Yes.
lot of times it
Very.
falls on SPD. So
Yes.
you definitely need to do your due diligence in regards to that, and it's a process because it's challenging. Especially if you don't have people that's working with you. Especially if it's different time zones and stuff like that, it becomes a challenging process to get this information and even to get reps to come in now that they're able to come back into the hospitals on a
Yeah.
regular. To get them to do the in service and another you have to trust that they know and they're the expert because they may not know and they may not be the expert. So
Yes.
it's a little bit more that goes into it than like, hey, I got an IFU because I had one guy bring me an IFU and I know he got out the back of his truck. It was dusty, it was dirty, and it was like 12 years before. And I'm like, hey, this is not an updated IFU. And this comment was
Mm-mm.
that we have used this in a whole lot of hospitals have gotten no complaints. And I'm like,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, I need an updated IFU, or
Right? I
I have
hate
to
to
do
be
this
the
in
one to
this way.
tell you, but I need an updated
Yeah,
IFU.
yeah. Yeah. And then think about the other part of it. Think about how we do. No, you got some hospitals that live off IUSS, so that becomes an issue too because they living off of IUSS because they don't get enough instrumentation, to take care of the surgery procedure, or they schedule way too many because Dr. Bombay loves to do 45 cases of these instruments, so you got to turn them
Oh,
over 15, 20 times. So it becomes a process, and that's what I
it
would love to
definitely
start
does.
seeing with the IFUs is that they start validating how many times those instruments can be reprocessed, even though they're reusable and not come down for the full process of sterilization. That's something they really should look at too.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some gray areas that companies and reps avoid. I had a really great time yesterday watching the Beyond Clean podcast where they discussed all of these vendor issues, vendor management issues, IFUs. They talked a lot about just like you said, equipment not even being available for them to trade around. So how do you navigate this when the hospital needs it and the doctor only wants
The
this
doctor only
thing
wants this thing,
and everybody wants to
and
drop it off
everybody wants to
5 minutes
drop it off
before the
5 minutes
case.
before the case.
Yeah. And thank you to shout out to Hank for putting that show on. That was an incredible show. And I will, one second, hold on. That was a great
Yes.
show. Thank you, Hank, for bringing that information to the forefront. I learned a lot from
Welcome.
that 2 hour show. That was very good to have so many professionals sit down for that long and expound on that information that we definitely need to share throughout the industry. Thank you.
It was great. And shout out to Pika. Haven't seen you in a while, but it was great to see you on. And Marie, thank you for bringing it back to compliance because that's most of everybody.
Yeah, shout outs to you guys. Thank you. I really like Pika's perspective on the whole process and her focus on sterile processing. So thank you. I don't know her, but thank you.
I appreciated Pika's pushing for standardization through the FDA. Because there was a lot of conversation about how do we standardize, whose responsibility is it to standardize? Is it the rep? Is it the company? Is it the tech? But really going back to these agencies and saying, hey, is there a way that we can close these gaps from the outset? But I think it was Phil that was on there yesterday made a good point that even if we do put standards out, how are you going to get compliance? They were one of the first, or one of the groups that I've seen that really came at it and said we need to have threats, we need to have real boundaries around these standards, and I was like, guys, go.
Yes.
That's right.
So can I share a slide with you guys, and this will take us into IUSS and maybe a little bit into the one tray, based on the
Favorite.
maybe based on the perception of what manufacturers can see the IUSS. So I'll put up a quick slide here. Hopefully this works on the first go. Share. Boom. Can you guys see it? So I will go to my other screen and zoom in. Oh, a little too much. Go back, go back, go back. Right. So the manufacturer here, this is actually V Mueller. So V Mueller is actually saying, oh, can you see it? It went small.
Steam sterilization? No, that's there.
Yeah, much smaller.
So it went small again. Let me go up a little bit. All right. So, and let me see if I can move up. All right. I'm moving up. Nope, I'm moving down. So here it is. So this is the Prevex steam cycle for immediate use. All right. FDA compliant, wrap conditions, 3 pulses, exposure time 132, 270 Fahrenheit. Exposure temperature, sorry. And exposure time is 4 minutes. And then devices must be used immediately and cannot be stored after later use. So in the IFU for regular sterilization, it says three condition, 3 pulses, exposure temp 132, 270, exposure time 4 minutes, and dry time 30 minutes. So this has been FDA cleared. So the difference I'm seeing here between the IUSS and the regular cycle is that there's no dry time. So my belief based on that is that the manufacturer believes that IUSS means the elimination of the dry time. If I'm wrong, guys, let me know.
I think that's what the manufacturer is saying, because most times they want a shortened cycle and they need that to be taken care of.
Oh, shit.
I'm sorry. So
yeah, so that's my belief. Let me head back to the main screen. Yeah, so that's my belief reading the actual IFU for that manufacturer. So the elimination of the dry time deems that process as being IUSS. So on another level, in as the one tray, basically the elimination of the dry time in any form, in any tray, in any process, deems that mode of sterilization immediate use, and you have to use it immediately after the cycle after the process. So am I correct? Am I misinformed? And guys, we have our phone number here, 559 and you will take your calls live on air. So call in if you have any information pertaining to one tray, IUSS, IFUs. Please call in 559 SPD, talk SPD, 559 TALK SPD, or 559 825 5773, and weigh in to this topic if you have any additional information. So, guys, what do you think about the slide I just pulled up?
Well, personally, I think that there are challenges in terms of getting a clear definition what IUSS is, and as immediate use steam sterilization, and with one tray to give you the opportunity to store it as well. So we've had that debate years ago, in terms of what the IFU was stating and what we thought or interpreted the definition of IOS to be. Um, I'm an advocate of that. If anything is shortened as far as the dry time, you limit the dry time, which is the purpose of IOSS, because you're going to use it immediately, and you take it right to the sterile area, the operating room, and go ahead and proceed with your procedure, because maybe that was a one of a kind item, But I think what one tray has started giving the opportunity to do is to store on the shelf. Um, I'm still not totally familiar with it. I think there's still challenges with it for me. I know that it's becoming an industry standard where I've seen some organizations where they just went and put all one trays, and they use the shortened cycle and they put them on the shelf, and they have a policy and an SOP around it to to state that it's validated to be done that way. So I think it still poses some challenges, because even with the opportunity to store it on the shelf, I think there's a time frame involved that's have it limited. So that I'm not too sure about, but I understand that even if you put it on the shelf, it's not indefinite that you can leave it on the shelf. You'll have to reprocess that item. So does it turn it almost like a event related sterility, where you're trying to process things on a regular because of it?
Yeah. So, guys, here it is again. The manufacturer of this instrumentation is saying Prevex stem sterilization cycle for immediate use. There are also instructions there. I know somebody might say, well, it's a wrap. There are also instructions here for container use. It's quite long IFU to scroll all the way to the right or left. I didn't take a photo of that part, but it also has instructions for using containers. But the main for IUSS, they're given this exposure temp 132 or 270, exposure time 4 minutes, sterilization with no dry time. And on the other end, let me just go to that page real quick, and I'll scroll up and show you guys. For the regular mode of sterilization, it's a little blurry here. It's saying the same thing, but with 30 minutes dry time. So their version of IUSS means the only difference in those statements is no dry time. If you look at it, that's the only difference from the regular sterilization cycle to the immediate use stim sterilization cycle. So
Hey, Dean,
anybody,
before you get rid of that slide, could you slide
mhm.
in a little bit more and show another? They got a couple other instances down
All
there.
right, there are a couple current version SC79, Prevex stim sterilization, FDA wrap sterilization, 4 minutes. You want me to go down further?
Yes.
All right.
And just a little clarification on the IUSS from our episode with Sarah when we talked so heavily about one tray. My understanding was anytime that we deviate from these established standards, it's considered IUSS. So that could be cutting the exposure time, that could be cutting the dry time. And where one tray comes in and makes it a little murky and different is that for them, they're always exposed the exposure of the IFU and they remove the dry time. So if your IFU says 10 minutes or 4 minutes for exposure, you should follow that and then eliminate your dry time.
Yeah. and that's where it becomes challenging, like you said, murky, because it can actually be confusing.
Very.
Because I know
So
years ago when we did IOSS, or they call it Flash, then
Mm.
we didn't have a wrap in it, we didn't have a container in it. It was just open. Which that's why I asked you to scroll down to see if it had that on there, and it wasn't listed. It
Yep.
listed specifically as a Prevat. So is it saying that you can't IOSS at gravity?
there
Either
is a gravity down here. Let me open that up a little bit. There is a gravity cycle. 1 second.
And for our techs watching, if you're not familiar with the fact that your steam sterilizers can actually do two modes, check in with your leadership and see what options you have. Some sterilizers are set up for both gravity and Prevex cycles, so you just want to be sure that you do have the appropriate cycle on your machine. And they cannot, to my understanding, be
Oops.
subbed. So if it says Prevac, it's Prevac. If it says gravity, it's gravity.
and the amazing thing is that what we've come to understand in this in our profession is that just about everything we touch and use has an IFU.
Right?
Even the sterilizer have
The
IFUs. Even
sterilizer, the
IOSS
tape,
has
the wrap,
IFUs.
the indicator, the detergent, everything you
So
use
that's what makes it very
has
challenging.
instructions for
Yeah,
use.
it makes it very challenging. You have to know a wonderful world of IFUs because of the fact that there's so many things that go with it. Even
Right?
tubing to different things that you use have IFUs. You know,
Yes.
Yes,
things in decontam have IFUs. You have STS when it comes to certain chemicals, but it's an IFU considered with that. So
absolutely.
it's challenging, but I like it because it keeps us on our toes. It challenges us to make sure we know what we're doing, and it's not something that we just do on our own.
Yes. And I just wanted to cover. I did a little research on a few of the major manufacturers that we deal with on those that recommend and do not recommend IUSS, and that's based on their terminology of IUSS.
Hmm.
So, Stryker, Ortho, and Spine do not recommend IUSS. Their statement is do not use flash or we do not use flash or IUSS for sterilization for reusable instrumentation, and that's the direct quote. Um, Striker Orthopedics, that's a no no. Striker Spine, as I said, that's a no no. Also, peeling instruments do not recommend IUSS for their cycles. Flash sterilization or IUSS is not recommended for use with these instruments. So if you're processing your peeling instruments through a shorter cycle, that's per the manufacturer. It's not recommended. It's only the cycle recommended on the IFUs. And if you're going against the IFUs, then what other IFUs are you going against? You might as well get rid of all IFUs because
Throw it all out.
because
Throw it out.
some are convenient and some are not. So when do we decide to follow them?
It's hard, right? You
So
don't
if you
want to
think
throw the
about it,
baby out
they
with the bathwater, as they say.
right.
But there are definitely times on the floor where your IFU does not give you all the information you need, and you still have that case that's going in a few minutes. So, SPD techs and leaders get put into positions where you have to make your best educated guess as to what to do next, and that can be challenging because, like you said, when do you do that? When is it appropriate for you to make the best educated guess on what to do next versus calling somebody and getting some clarification on what I'm missing here in this IFU?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, think about it. A lot of trades still have pilling instruments in it, and then you
Absolutely.
had Codman pilling. All these
Mhm.
different instruments in it.
Pegra. Mhm.
You have to figure out which IFU is going to cover all those instruments, or get instrumentation
Exactly.
that's all the same. And
Exactly.
it's very hard to explain to a surgeon that wants what he wants. And you're like, hey, I can't guarantee you this is sterile. That doesn't fathom to them because they're like, what do you mean? Isn't that what you do?
It's
You'll get you'll get
Mhm.
interrogated about
oh
that,
yes, you will.
and you're just trying to make sure that the patient is safe. But in those situations, you have to. That's where you have to really try to be very proactive. Understand what's in your
Yeah,
trays. Sit down with your supervisors, your managers, etc., your lead techs, and say, "Hey, we got a project in hand. It's a massive project. This is what we got to do. What do you have as a suggestion on how we can facilitate this in a timely manner?" And then you have to work out a game plan, set some goals, and get it done. Because if
absolutely.
not, and you have those instruments that Dr. Bombay has used for for 25 years, and all of a sudden the company went out of business, and
They
they
don't
don't have
need
any
that
IFUs
number
for it. What do
one.
you do? Because that has happened to me.
Yes.
This doctor, he was using instruments from Taiwan. They didn't have IFUs, and he's been doing it that way for years, and he was comfortable with using them because
Yeah.
of the fact that those were his favorite instruments.
Yeah.
So to tell that man that, or that doctor, I should say, that those instruments are putting him as non-compliant, and he has the risk of having an infection, which could really ruin his reputation. It only take
Oh yeah.
one. You know, it's a challenging situation. It's something that we need to look into and have further
I
discussion
mean, their reputations, but also we have to remember these surgeons are working just like we are. A lot of them are carrying medical malpractice insurance. Having something like that come back on your record can be detrimental to your
on. Yeah,
career, can really put you in a bind. So, a lot of times, some of that fever that we feel is just them trying to avoid making sure they don't have any type of issues because of somebody else not doing their job properly,
right.
but also we don't want to have a situation where they can push for the wrong reasons and we end up having bad outcomes anyway.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think that's a big challenge. You think about it. When you, especially when you come to a new facility and you see some things that are non-compliant, that is out of compliance, that don't have SOPs for, policies for, and they're
Yeah,
doing it that way.
yeah.
And they're very comfortable doing that way because what
Oh, yeah.
happens a lot of times when you think about it, the reason why it's done a certain way because it's speed, the process is sped up,
Yes.
you know, and they're used to getting it in 2 hours, which they shouldn't
Right.
be getting it in
Get
two
comfortable
hours,
with the
you
shortcut.
know. So it's a lot of conversation, and those conversations become very crucial because coming in, the honeymoon quickly come to divorce papers because of the fact that they don't like what you're presenting because you're changing the status quo and you're putting a bend in the norm. So IFUs are extremely important.
Very.
Understand them, research them, review them. You know, Denard, you're the computer whiz. Do they have a setup where if your IFU, say for example, with one source, if one
Hmm.
source does one source have a situation where if the IFU is pretty much out of compliance, that they will have us say, hey, listen, this is this IFU is not current. You know what I mean? Or it says it was done 5 years ago, but this IFU is not current. Because what happens is that I look on one source, I may see an IFU from 5 years ago, and understand that I just had a in service with the rep, and he said, yes, these are the newest, the latest, and the greatest. Where's the IFU to show that that's validated for the same process that he's presenting?
Actually, there is. I think OneSource has the better reputation, been around the longest. But there are a few companies coming out with IFUs that are able to be accessed at the point of scanning,
Yeah.
and they're said to be updated. You can never be 100% sure of
Yes.
what's happening on the other end, but
Mhm.
their claim is that you have the most updated IFUs for that specific instrumentation for that process, whether it be decontamination, assembly, sterilization. When scanning, you'll get a pop up saying, "Hey, this is exactly how you process the instrument." I've actually had experience with tracking systems that with pop ups, and those really slow the process down. So I'm curious to see how that would work if every time you scan a tray, you get a pop up you have to clear. So
Hmm.
that definitely adds time to your process. So I know it's based on patient safety, but it definitely slows the process down.
Definitely.
If there's
If
anybody out
there's
there that's
anybody
using
out there that's
them,
using them, feel
give us a
free to give us a
call,
call,
five five
five five
nine eight
nine
two
eight two
five
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 seven
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 three.
three.
Give
Give
us a
us a
call.
call and
Let
let
us
us
know
know
what
what
your
your
experience
experience
is.
is.
I'm
I'm
curious.
curious. We're looking at installing them, but I had some of the same reservations. Like my staff already complained a lot about the instrument tracking system we have that does pop up. So they were kind of pushing it as a selling point, like, oh, you won't be able to move forward because the pop up. But that was kind of a red flag to me. So I'm curious to know what everybody out there, what Nerd Nation is doing.
Yeah, because those pop ups really slow things down. And let me just backtrack a little bit um, on SOPs, and see this as a major trend in a negative way in terms of cell processing and how what we do affects patients. In terms of having IFUs, a lot of facilities are now creating policies um, that are not based on science. Um, mainly because the process basically covers you. If you create a process, a policy that says you could do one thing, and you do that one thing, you're basically saying, well, it isn't actually the right thing to do, but we're going to create, um, let's say, like a shell around what we're doing. So in case someone comes in and say, hey, you're doing the wrong thing, you have a policy, process, procedure, competencies around doing the wrong thing. And I think that definitely adversely affects what we do in sterile processing. What's your take on that?
100%. I'm about to say, y'all know how I feel about it. I've been with the process now for a couple of months. I think everybody out there knows how I feel about it. I'm going to do it the right way. I don't care what your policy says. But I am seeing that as a trend as a leader, that a lot of peri-op directors have gotten hit to the fact that at a hospital level, at a facility level, if they put these goofy things into their policies, they're really okay, because it's in their policy, so they're not actually deviating from practice. And they don't, because of the way policies are written. I don't. If you guys are out there, go grab one of your policies, look at the references on the back, and call us and let me know if they're up to date.
Yeah, and you can
Because a
read
lot
about
of what I see is somebody wrote that policy 5 years ago and they never even updated the references. So nobody's even going back to the Amy standards or anything and looking at it and saying, "Oh, actually, you don't do that anymore."
it.
So it is really a glaring oversight that we're able to do that.
Yeah, I've seen it happen on a couple occasions in terms of like, oh, well, we just changed the policy. But what that does is saying, okay, we're making ourselves non-compliant so that we can be compliant to a process that's not compliant. And it's a shame because
Uh-huh.
you think about it. Because when I started reviewing policies, I would look at the references and check the references, and you'll see that it's outdated. You'll see that okay, this was done 12 years ago, and you got two sets of revised Amy, and you had like 19 sets of new instruments that come through the same company. So yeah, you're compliant based on that information, but are you
Mhm.
compliant based on the current standards? Absolutely not. Even the
True.
CDC and FDA are truly playing catch up. They're never ahead of it, unfortunately,
No.
but they're playing catch up, and with the catch up, they're still catching things. Think about it. Joint Commission come in and they'll read your policy and walk away and say it's okay. Absolutely not. So you're coming in to be our guardian, but yet you told us a policy that's okay, that's non-compliant, and can harm patients. That's
Mhm.
Absolutely.
totally horrible. And it's like, I
It
mean, don't get
really
me
is.
wrong. People fear Joint Commission. I don't fear them. I welcome them
No.
because I like to see what their expertise is.
Come
And if their
on in.
expertise is not
Come on in.
compliant, then I
Because
will have
nine times out of
concerns.
10, I'm about to
Because
run
nine
circles
times
around
out
you
of
as
10, I'm
SPD
about to run
manager. So
circles
come
around you as
on in.
SPD manager. So come on in.
Yeah, it's like, come on in and let's talk about this. Let me see where you're getting your resources from. Because I've been cited on several occasions, and then when we have our big forum, I'll wait to right when they finish, talking about what was non-compliant sterile processing, and I'll say, hey, could you show me the references where you base it off of? Because I already have my homework done, and I showed them where
Get
they aren't even compliant. So
there
then
you
my
go.
AVP be looking like, well, who's right here? I said, I'm only going by the latest standards here. I'm only going by Amy standards that we go by, and then I'll check off that we're going by ARON as well.
There you go.
So it's like, come on, if you're going to be somebody that's going to police this profession, understand the policies, and understand when they're non-compliant, understand what the references are, so that you can give vital, accurate information, and that's the key to patient safety. Because if not, we're going to have a whole lot more infections than 1% a year.
Oh, absolutely. I don't even believe that number. Don't find that
I
that
know
to be
that's only
true at all.
reported. Well, we have to take that with a
No.
grain of salt. It's only reported. You follow what I'm saying?
It's
Because they have
impossible.
the option, think about it, to report it or not. So if they don't report it, okay, I believe that they report the ones they think that are less, harmful to them, and the ones they don't report, unfortunately, get sued for. So they don't, and then they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement in order not to, let that out to the public, So then, they continue to coast down the river of non-compliance and idiocy in order for it to get the numbers that they need to get their bottom line the way it need to be. Very horrible,
Absolutely.
horrible.
Absolutely.
And then let me just say something.
You're on mute. There.
Yeah, so I'm back. So let me just say something. IFU stand for instructions for use, but it definitely doesn't mean that's the only thing you could do, right? I'm not speaking in terms of sterilization. I'm speaking in terms of cleaning and just maintaining your instrumentation. Every IFU won't have every single thing you can do in the IFU. So then we have to use our better judgment in terms of using lubrication on the clean side, using a metal brush. Some IFUs don't even have guidance on whether to use a metal a metal brush or a soft bristle brush. Some IFUs don't cover that, and they go to the generic saying, "Follow your hospital's policies and procedures," and then you have a huge window of what do we do, or,
Yeah.
or what do we not do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all IFUs do not cover everything, but they do give you somewhat of a guideline, or say, hey, based on this, do this thing, or based on our previous IFUs, do this. I've seen IFUs actually refer for you to another IFU to get the information that you need. So definitely, in terms of endoscopes, also, um, Olympus doesn't tell you only use Olympus um, endoscope processing machines. You could use Steris, you could use um, Olympus, or who else out there? ASP. So it's not specific. So some IFUs do leave a little area wiggle room so that you could get your job done
So,
adequately.
But you know what?
and
Also, the device manufacturers, like for Olympus and for the other ones, Custom Ultrasonics, they also in their IFU state what scopes are compatible to their
yeah,
machines. So you have that other backup process that works with you. You know,
yeah.
so you have really a couple resources to help you with setting up a policy, if you will, that's compliant. Is going to help you out. Make sure that everything you render is safe for patient use.
True, definitely. True, true.
And you can always reach out to other manufacturers. Like, so let's say I do have an Olympus scope, but maybe I have a Medivator AER reprocessor. I can call Medivator and ask them if that Olympus scope is validated. Sometimes the parent companies won't do validation for, companies that are competing with them, but that doesn't mean that the other company didn't validate it too, because everybody's trying to scoop up business. So, one of my favorite tools to use right now is the Steris compatibility matrix for the Steris equipment, because you can just type in right there the number for the unit, and it will pull up and let you know if Steris validated it for you.
Hmm.
Sometimes that's a lot faster than trying to get it out of the IFU, just simply because of what D said, that they don't all do everything and they don't all have everything in the IFU. So pool your resources, because you can call, like Jeff was saying, every company has an IFU for that thing. So you can really call everybody and say, hey, I have this Steris thing, what can I do? Or I have this ASP unit, what can I do?
Yeah, so true, so true.
And guys, get it in writing. Don't talk over the phone and say, "Oh, this guy told me." Well, yeah, he said it was good, so let's do it. So
That
make
is
sure you,
such a major point. Get it in writing, just like your IFU. This was some advice that I got early in my sterile processing career. But if you don't write it down, it's like it never happened. So if you take that call and they tell you some fantastic information and you hop off and you have nothing in writing, guess what? You just made all that up. Because you can't go back and say the company told me X, Y, and Z, because you don't have anything in writing. Yes,
Absolutely.
get
Yeah,
it.
especially if you call them on the phone, because you got some really good device manufacturers that will email you with the
Yes, they'll
attachment,
email you right
and now
there.
you can file that away as IFU folder on your computer. So you can click on IFU and get all the emails that deals with different device manufacturers, and click on their IFU and have it there. So it's a lot of ways you can do that. And we also had a whole different reference book for IFUs that wasn't even in certain areas of our department. So we made a book for the ones we couldn't find, that were hard to find,
Hmm.
or the ones that were really out of our processing norm. And we just set up a whole nother library to make sure we had those things, and then we'd download on the computer and
Hmm.
have that set up. But
Sometimes I feel
yeah,
like people want to go digital so bad, but some things you're just not going to be there. So I
right,
I do still encourage people to keep a library in your SPD department, even just for reference on what used to be. When you sitting in there and you got nothing else to do, read
yeah,
back through what we used to do. It's
makes a
very
difference.
informative. Hmm.
and I have a trick, guys. If you're watching this show, if you can't find the IFUs, look for the 510K. So that might show you the predicate device to actually go and look that IFU up. That'll give you the same the reprocessing information that you need. So check out the 510K if you can't find the IFU.
Yeah.
And of
But
course, all of that, it can be a challenge, because sometimes you have 5 minutes to find an IFU. Sometimes you have a whole week. Sometimes you guys are purchasing something and you've got months. So it may change your approach depending on how long you have to find it, but definitely I would just encourage folks to stop the line if you don't have it, because you really are doing your patient a disservice if you attempt to process without your IFU. And for those folks that do find weird things in their IFU, I want to say I'm sure that one source has some process, but I'm not familiar with what it is. So maybe we can do some research on that for you guys. But there is MedSun reporting. So I know we talked about that a little bit before, but through the FDA, they have a voluntary reporting process. If there's anything in your healthcare setting, this could be sponges, packs, your surgery packs. Maybe they have plastic that's coming in, or maybe there's nails or hair showing up. Maybe you get an instrument that's broken or defective, or maybe you have an instrument that breaks during the case. All of that is not supposed to happen. So anytime you have something that doesn't or that's not supposed to happen in your events, you can put in a MedSun report, and that will give the FDA data that they can go back to those companies and say, hey, such and such, we're noticing that all across the country your packs are coming through incorrectly, or your instruments are breaking in cases. What's going on here?
Yeah, for me, that word is transparency. You have a lot of these manufacturers, don't want to be called out on some little
Yeah,
simple things that they're fallible at, and I think they should, and I
oh, yeah,
think that more people should report it, and that's
oh,
on
yeah,
all levels. Because I mean, how do we make the system better if we
yeah,
don't understand what the issues are?
yeah.
So we really should look at that as an opportunity to get better. And I think that the more we do it, the better we'll get.
I agree. I agree.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So if we had to define IFU, for somebody who don't know what IFU really is, they understand you're saying instructions for use. But if
Right.
we had to define what an IFU is, and its purpose, how would you define that? Because we have probably some young people that are listening to the show that may say,
That's
"Hey,
no
listen, sterile
idea.
processing is something I want to get into," but they're giving all these acronyms. I understand, but what is an instruction for use? What would you guys say? I'll tell you what I would say. All right.
All right,
No.
so let me go first because I have not much to say on that one. So instructions for use, you want to look at all your areas of processing. You want instruction for use will guide you through your decontamination to your sterilization. Now, you may need further references from similar devices, from other manufacturers like your container manufacturer, your sterilizer manufacturer. So, this may all encompass the one IFU that you want to follow. So, it might not be that specific piece of paper or document. You may have two or three documents you need two or three documents to actually reprocess that one instrument. So IFU is basically a guideline for how to safely reprocess an instrument or instrumentation.
Awesome. Good job, Denard. I like that definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just off the dome, freestyle. That's what I do. You know what?
Yeah.
Let me clap. Let me clap for myself. Hold on. All
Yeah,
right,
that
next.
is very important. No, that is very important because people
No,
understand
it's
that with
pretty good.
everything that we have directions for. Like you get a box with a stereo in it or a box with a table in it. It has directions. And if you want to put it in medical terms, that's your IFU. It tells you how to assemble it. If you don't have all the right pieces there, what's going to happen and stuff like that. So the IFU is the directional opportunity that we need to process. Because without it, and it's amazing because remember we didn't have IFUs before. We were just processing every single thing the same. All use the
Yeah.
same detergent, the same water. You
And
know,
I really feel like that's trying to make a comeback with these general IFUs that I'm
mm,
seeing more and more. Guys, watch out for those. Definitely keep copies of those and read them if you haven't. I found a major problem with one of mine a couple months ago. And the only way that I was able to get it resolved was by putting in a MedSun report, and the company actually then took me seriously and had a meeting and came back with the clinical information. But it was a whole IFU with no dry time, and that clinical director was arguing with me that we did the 510K process, and who are you to ask me where the dry time is at? You're mute again.
amazing.
Your mic. Your mic.
Denard is on mute.
All right, yeah, I knew that. So definitely, you get those manufacturers. who um who have incomplete IFUs, or should I say, or IFUs that are not specific. They're a bit vague. And then what do you do in those circumstances? Then let me send that question back to you. What do you do in those circumstances, Jeff?
When we have what, an incomplete IFU.
Yeah, when you have an
Yeah,
incomplete IFU,
yeah. Well, as on the technician level, if you have an incomplete IFU, you want to reach out to your supervisor or manager to explain to them that you don't have all the information necessary to process what you're trying to do, and there's some confusion or some ambiguities that you have to have clarified. If you're on a supervisor level and you see that the incomplete IFU, then you should take the moment to see if you can research it and get the latest one. If not, you should reach out to the device manufacturer, your rep, so that you can get that information, and then you have to educate all your team, and that's three different teams for different shifts. Then that's what you have to do. And now we'll get my educator involved to help us, get that thing facilitated. If it gets to the manager level, they're pretty much doing the same thing, but they should actually collaborate with the SPD educator if there's one available to make sure that's being done. But they should take it a couple steps further. If it's incomplete, they should reach out to the nurse manager in the operating room, have a conversation with them for them to facilitate it to the surgeons what's going to happen going forward, and then you should reach out to the OR coordinator, perioperative educator, so that educator and the SPD educator can collaborate. Then even put out some PowerPoint slides to get everybody in the email,
Yeah.
get it where it's talking points on a daily basis. Where in some places I worked at, we had huddle boards or um, point of the day boards, and get that information out there.
Yeah.
That's what I should do.
If you're lucky enough to have a tracking system, you can also send messages to your team through most of your
Mm-hmm.
tracking systems.
Yep, you can.
So it's another good way to capture folks. But careful with that, just in the simple fact that if it's deep, detailed information, go ahead and have it in service.
definitely, I agree. In services are definitely a key to educating and to keeping the information fresh within your department. It's like a newsletter. You want it same day, same week, same month, every time consistently. You're gonna keep that information coming in, because when you're not consistent, especially with in services and information such on your instrumentation, your new equipment, people tend to stray and go revert
Yeah.
to the old practices. So I definitely am a big promoter of in services, newsletters, any information, um, um, whiteboards, um, um, posted notes, um,
Anything.
even some tracking systems even have pop-ups when you log in as to what are the current issues in the department, what the current needs are, new trays coming in, what you need to sign off on. Some tracking systems do that very well. So definitely, information is very good. Some people may not pay attention to it, but it's good to have it out there anyway, so that those who can will pay attention to it and get that information.
Mhm.
Yep.
And one thing that'll definitely um, save you some, or help you when leadership is not around, when that information is available to your technicians. You won't get that call at 1 a.m. in the morning. Hey, I have this new tray here. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure how to process it. You tell them, hey, that pop-up was right there. New tray, IFUs, or processing times, etc., etc. So you definitely want that information out there to avoid all those last-minute guesswork um, from the team.
Okay.
I
I
also,
agree. Definitely 100%. Just a couple extra little things on IFUs for my new techs that may not be aware. When you look when you're looking at those, you're going to see your temperatures in Fahrenheit or Celsius. So make sure you know what your machine is set for so that you can do the conversion if you need to. Also take a look out for any type of special information. Like sometimes it may tell you what an exposure time is, and then it may give you what the maximum is, which means that you are actually in a position where you can go over if you need to. So a lot of times I'm seeing, okay, maybe it's a 4 minute exposure, but it says no more than 18. And maybe my hospital is set up for a 10-minute exposure. So that means I don't have to change anything about the way that I'm processing. But do read through those IFUs not just for the information that you're looking for, but so that you are aware of everything that company is saying that they need for that piece of equipment.
Yeah, it really makes a difference. I mean, well, I think about a lot of times, situations like that. It makes me think about why the IFUs are so important. It's important to help us with our processing, how importance, mainly to keep the patient safe, and then allow us to do our jobs effectively. And in a lot of cases, it could be efficiently if we have, what do you call it, our leadership team, in compliance with doing things the correct way. And that's really, for me, one of the bigger challenges because you can have everything right, you have everybody doing everything right, and then leadership is like, well, we need this in
Yeah.
2 hours, which is pretty unfathomable, and and having that
Right.
conversation becomes a crucial conversation.
Right.
So
Having them crucial conversations.
Yeah. And definitely, we have a call from one of our listeners. Let me play it for you guys. Let me just head. All right. So let me play this call.
I'm calling to tell you guys how awesome you are. Sorry I'm not there with you, but I will be soon.
All right. And that's from Sharon. Thank you, Sharon,
Thank you, Sharon.
for calling in. Appreciate it. And she will be on the show soon. She is a great friend to the show, and she's been listening faithfully. So thank you, Sharon. And
Thank you.
let me
Thank
add some
you.
hand claps in there.
Boop, boop, boop.
All right. So, guys, call in if you can. 559-825-5773. And I think the show is going really well. We're getting into that 10-minute window where we will be shutting down soon. So any last thoughts, guys, comments on IFUs, USS one tray, etc.?
Ain't nobody got nothing else to say about that scam. Um,
Oh
for
my
the
goodness.
text, just one thing I do want to push. It is everybody's individual responsibility to have the information that they need to do the job. Ignorance is not an excuse in this field because you can sincerely and severely damage somebody's quality of life, or the fact that they're living all together. We have that kind of power in our department, so take it that seriously. Do your due diligence, read your standards, stay current on your standards. Isham sends out new podcasts and classes all the time. If you're not being active with that information, I'm sorry, but you are not being a great SPD tech. You need to stay current on your information.
Hold up 1 second.
Y'all
Yeah.
know me, I'll tell you to your face. Yeah, I don't
Def-
wanna.
Definitely. Guys, don't like if you somebody told me recently, if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. So stay ready. When that new information comes in, hey, I knew that product was coming out. When that new Da Vinci comes out, hey, I read that before. I read that 2 months ago that it was coming out.
That's it.
When that new instrumentation for that new scope kit comes out, hey, I read that in the process. So guys, keep up to date with what's going on, especially the new magazines, all the magazines out, Health Mark, and others. So OR Live, OR Today, um, just
Healthcare purchasing
healthcare
news,
purchasing
risk
news.
management.
yeah,
Check it
Yeah.
out.
Check them out. Read them. Read something. They're online. We have Becca's. And we also have our friend,
Salinja Bearfield,
Celine
news you could
Bearfield with the
use.
news you could use.
She
I
didn't
on
ask for that jingle,
SPD.
but I just gave it to her.
I on SPD. Check that website out. It has all the different podcasts from us to Knowledge to Nonsense to CS Nation. I do not have anything against any information, guys. Any podcast comes out, I have no issue with promoting them. It's all information we could use to promote our industry and to make everything better for our patients. So, um,
Absolutely.
any podcast, any information. There's Jesse also. Jesse, what's his last name? Lopez.
Nope.
Jesse Lopez has a new show out. He always has good information on reprocessing instrumentation,
I
testing
love
instrumentation. So check his stuff out. He has a new show, I believe it's on YouTube, and he's always
Yeah,
posting on Facebook and LinkedIn also.
yeah, check him out. I see him on Instagram a lot. The new show is called Stir the Pot. He's got an episode up. Check that out. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoy his videos where he shows you how to check the instruments right there in your
Hmm.
face.
Yep, yep. And then some people think they know everything, but just pay attention to just pay attention. Sometimes you may think you know everything, but there's maybe one little tidbit. Because sometimes I watch videos and I'm like, I've cleaned this instrument a million times. What am I going to learn
Oh
from
my
that?
God,
And then
yes.
you get that little piece. You're like, oh dang, I didn't. Oh.
So Salindra did this to me the other day. I had one a couple months ago with Sharon where she talked about the Da Vinci, and I was like, honey, I never saw that in the IFU. Let me get on the floor right now. But I just saw one from Salindra Bearfield where she posted about the Arthrex shavers. That the handpiece, the handle can actually be dislodged and taken off and cleaned underneath. Been cleaning shavers for 14 years, never heard about it. So I don't think it was a part of the IFU, but they had a very experienced rep on site with them that showed them that process. And it was really interesting because y'all know anytime we could take something off, you're gonna find good things underneath there. So definitely check that out. I know it's posted in the process by Cylindra Bearfield. Check it out.
Ding ding ding! It is actually in the IFU. So
It is.
give me 60 seconds and I will pull it up. Um,
Well,
I have no problem. Let me work my magic real quick.
Make work your magic.
Um,
Magic.
and I will pull it up on the
Jeff,
screen.
have you ever had this experience where you were doing something one way forever and then you found out that this wasn't it?
well, what I wanted to
I
say while
have.
he's waiting,
Oh,
my comment for the day is that knowledge is power, and the application of that knowledge is what we do to save lives. And I think as we
absolutely.
continue to implement that, we will get better and better at what we do, and we will be more refined in processing and save people lives because that's what we
Absolutely.
do. And I think we do it fantastically. We just, have to stay with it, continue to push the envelope and how we're supposed to do things the correct way.
Correct.
You got it,
I agree
D?
with that.
Give me 30 seconds.
I agree with that. And I also want to add, I'm hoping that what we are seeing with all of these podcasts that are coming out now and having a more public conversation about what we do is that there's a decentralization of the politics
Mm-hmm.
and a real focus on patient safety. Because I
Mm-hmm.
just honestly feel like if we are all about good patient outcomes, a lot of these arguments that we're having won't even be necessary.
Yeah, it'd be mute. It'd be mute.
Be mute. Like I want to get to a day where SPD doesn't talk about what the surgeon wants.
Right.
That's irrelevant.
Right.
It's irrelevant unless we're talking about something specific to the care of that case. But just talking about it from the preference of, oh, he doesn't like this or he doesn't like that room or he prefers these things. Mm-mm. Is it what's best for the patient?
Patient advocacy. Because when you under the anesthesia, trust me, if anybody can tell what happened to them when they're under it, you'll be the first.
You
But no, we need to make sure that everything every time is done the correct way. And I
correct
think
way.
the more we push that envelope that way, and the more we continue to process that way, the better outcomes we're going to get. Because
Yes.
if we were under the knife, we want everything to be right for us.
Absolutely.
What are you
And
about to
just
say,
like
guys?
any good team, be open to constructive criticism. No matter how well we're doing this, we are not always doing it perfect. I encourage my staff to walk around like they're surveyors. Nitpick. That's what I tell them. I said, nitpick any little thing you can find that we're not doing properly and raise it up because that means one, you're paying attention to the details.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, it empowers you because now you're bringing up issues and they're being resolved in a manner in which is safe and calm. It's not like, oh, here goes that complaining negative Nancy again with something else we ain't doing right.
Wow. I hear
So,
you.
guys, this is the Arthrex IFU for taking that switch
Nice.
off the shaver. And it's also similar to the striker. Also, I think Cylinder asked me that. Is basically the same device,
Okay.
different tag on it. It's like buying a T-shirt. One has Fruit of the Loom, and the other one has Macy's. The same
Mhm.
thing. So let me blow it up a little bit.
Hopefully y'all ain't seen it here first like I did.
So 4 steps. You need to put a tool, insert a tool So anything with a sharp pointy end, a um, K wire. I sometimes use. Sometimes we get
Well, like a dental pick or
Pakistani instrumentation.
mm,
So, like Pakistani sutures, the sharp end of that suture will definitely fit in there. So, and you have the soft handles to hold from that suture. And guys, that's not in the IFU, but in order to get that clean, you need to take this out. So, I sometimes use one of those Pakistani sutures. I insert it into that tip where they showing the pick is, and I push that handle outwards. So if you have a K wire, the sharp end will definitely get into your hand. If you have something with a round end, you'll definitely be able to put enough force into it to push it up and pull that switch out. So let me just read that. If you locate the opening in the suction valve component, insert a small tool, example a blunt wire, into the opening as shown. Push upwards to slide the pin away from the handpiece. So there's a little pin in here. You have to push it up, and there's a ridge. You have to push it up over the ridge in it to be able to push the handle out. And remove the suction valve. So in the suction valve, there's blood and bioburden that gets in there. So you will find a white substance that's bone. You'll find a white flaky substance when you get that out. That's bone in there. And I found that out maybe a year or two into my career. And I always thought, oh, yeah, all the old school people know it. So there's no need to talk about it. But every now and then people bring it up. There's actually a video on YouTube about it too. A guy is taking it apart. So guys, the little I will send my bill to you for that information. Thank you. So yeah, that's very important to know. A lot of people don't know about it. So that's for the Afrec shaver or the striker shaver, and the older model shavers do not have that. Also, the wolf Moslater has that same handle.
mm.
If you have an old metal wolf Moslater, some surgeons rather those for some reason. Um, that's definitely the same exact process for that.
I think this is a perfect example of what Jeff was talking about earlier. You get that original IFU and then you think you know it and you don't go back and check. I am guilty. Guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
Yeah, we're guilty. We're gonna go.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes.
There we go.
I mean, the
Oh,
great thing about our profession is that we know it's ever evolving. So that means we're ever learning. We're going to continue to learn. I mean, there's so many things we do not know, and want to know when it comes to sterile processing. That's the great thing about seeing all these other podcasts, all these other information come out, because it's endless. If anybody that's putting this information out on different platforms of sterile processing podcasts is doing a great service to the industry and to the profession.
Mhm.
hmm And thank you to you guys. Let me put some hand claps. Do we have a message here? Boom, Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
All right, all right, all right. Let me give us some hand claps real quick.
Leslie.
Let me give us
Give us some
some.
shoulder shrug.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. And that's our Leslie's our walking buddy too. She's always out for
Join
the
us,
walk.
guys. Join us this Saturday at 9 a.m., correct?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. from to 10 a.m. From wherever you are in the country, hop on the Google link, the Facebook link, and just walk with us. It's really up to you how you want to participate. Some people are just walking and listening to the chatter. Some of us are talking about the kids, games, music, what happened in SB this week. Whatever you like, you just unplugging with the family.
And let me put my broadcaster voice on. Now, there are times when you get home and you're talking about SPD and no one knows what you're talking about. Yeah, what's what how aborted load? What's that? You had a recall? What, you forgot something? So if you want to talk to people that understand and can communicate with you on that same level, come on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. and we'll have a nice conversation about the instruments that weren't sterile, the recall loads you had, and it's all confidential. No one, we're not recording it. It's just come on and vent. and take a little walk, burn some calories, lose some of that COVID weight. Come out. You could do it on your treadmill at your house, or you could get outside and walk down the street. It's up to you. So just come on 9 a.m. You have to be a member of the process group also. So come on, join the group, and let's walk.
Invite your friends.
And invite your friends also. And woo!
Hopefully we answered all you guys' IFU questions tonight in the group, but if we didn't, please give us a call, 559-825-5773.
All right. And Jeff, check out Mr. Jeffrey's Sterile Concepts Technology, SCT. All right. Also, Mrs. Alessandra Nicholson, the Candray Institute of SPD. Also, by the way, check me out. Sterile MD on YouTube, or you could check out the website SterileMD.com. Also, one more thing, you could check out the Etsy store if you want one of these T-shirts. Check it out. If you want to be an official member. I mean, sometimes you're an outside member of things, and you want to be an official member and have the shirt.
Become official.
Get on, yeah. Be official. Be official. Don't be on the side, on the fringe. Come in. The door is open. Come on in. Come on in. Don't be shy. Come all the way in. Get a T-shirt. We have IFU T-shirts, and that's really cool. I like the IFU T-shirt. I rock that sometimes. I like trays, but not Deacon Tam. Get that T-shirt. I mean, who really likes Deacon? Yeah, I like Deacon sometimes. I play my music. I like my music in Deacon, but some people don't really like Deacon. They always act like the tray is taking an hour. It really is not taking an hour. You just don't want to go in Deacon. Just be honest. Okay, so so guys, thank you for watching. We also want to always keep the conversation light. We know what we do is very serious. We know it affects patients, but you can't always have the main serious, dead laser eye look all the time. So relax, and then sometimes we need a little chance to relax and have a good conversation, and especially when the pressure is on us for 8 hours throughout the day. So definitely, guys, thank you. And any last thoughts, guys?
No, I just want to thank you.
Keep processing.
Keep it up.
And then let me just 1 second. Let me hold on. Guys, we will see you in the next one. Peace.